Hey, I'm Hollis, and welcome to the Friendly Fangirl podcast, where I nerd out on the films, shows, and video games that I encounter every week. Be sure to follow this podcast, and please follow my Twitter and blog at Hollis Films to follow my journey experiencing the entertainment industry's greatest stories. Beware of spoilers, you have been warned. Stray is the most creative game I've seen since It Takes Two, which was my game of the year last year. And I don't know what I expected going into this game, but Stray exceeded any expectations I might have had. When you say, oh yeah, Stray is a game where you play as a cat, you immediately have expectations of a cat simulator. You expect gameplay moments like scratching the walls or furniture, jumping and climbing onto unusual places, jumping and landing on all fours from a high distance, meddling with objects and causing chaos. Well, that kind of gameplay is definitely included in this experience. I'm mostly satisfied with the climbing elements of this game, actually. Like, the mechanics for navigations it's very smooth and simple. The game is good at letting you know where you can and cannot go, and it's simple to just interact with a simple button command. The gameplay is also a bit more dynamic with the puzzles you need to solve. It's all pretty well designed. The gameplay is whatever compared to the story and ingenious world building. We're taken through this futuristic society of robots during a time when humans are extinct. The goal of the cat is to get back outside of the domed city, but along the way, you help these robotic citizens too. I love how every robot has its own name, design, dialogue, story, and personality. It makes the world seem so alive and lived in, despite no actual living creatures actually living there. It's just robots. Plus the weird pink fleshy monsters that try and suck your flesh. The design of the world is nothing short of stunning. No detail was left behind, as every room, every alleyway, every street corner just seems so detailed. I don't know how else to explain it. It's such an immersive experience, and exploring the world and getting to know the citizens is the best part of the game. There's so many clues here and there to teach us the lore and of how things came to be, and you get emotionally attached to some of the characters, especially your close companion B12. RIP. This could very well be the game of the year, and I am begging you to play this game. It's such a unique experience, with deep thematic stories, absolutely stunning visuals, and all the stereotypical cat gameplay you could ask for. Better Call Saul recently ended, but I gotta talk about the show that even allowed Better Call Saul to exist. Breaking Bad. I had my first ever marathon earlier this year. Have not gotten to Better Call Saul yet, but while everyone says that Better Call Saul was their show of the year, I'm saying Breaking Bad was mine, because it's been several months since I finished the series, and I cannot get over it. So here it is, show of the week. Let's just start with season 1. Of course, season 1 had to act as the origin story to the dynamic duo that is Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. A man facing death at the hands of cancer adds to his already mess of a life by breaking bad in this meth business, and a young man who has already made a string of bad choices and is stuck in the drug-dealing business just trying to survive. I was very excited to see how these two characters would develop over time, and I was not disappointed. Reading my original thoughts, I used to feel like ending season 1, I felt that I would be gushing about Walter White and his character development through the series, and I was definitely not wrong. Going into season 2, that season 2 was ingeniously crafted, to say the least. This season saw the rise of tension between Walter and those closest to him, his relationship with Jesse began to evolve to an interesting relationship where they kind of hate each other, but still kind of like each other in a weird, very odd, like borderline father-son relationship. Saul is introduced, which I was very excited about because before I even heard the word Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul was the thing that, like, the only thing I knew from the franchise. So even though I never watched the actual show, that was the thing that pulled me to the Breaking Bad series to begin with. So I was very happy to finally see him make an appearance in season 2. However, the standout of season 2 was those cold openings at the beginning of every episode, because those were just genius. Well-crafted portions of the season that I spoke of at the beginning. These intros were menacing, haunting, and intense. More was revealed as we recognized it to be a crime scene at Walt's house. I spent the whole season theorizing about what was happening, wondering who died, what leads to this. I was convinced it had something to do with Walt's or Jesse's mistakes. The last few episodes of the season, I was on the edge of my seat in suspense, watching close for any details that could lead to a crazy climax of that happened at the White residence. And then the plane crash happened. And when that stupid pink teddy bear dropped in the pool, my jaw dropped. This was not what I expected at all, and for that, I applaud the show for being so cryptic about something so unexpected for a whole season. Okay, season 3. Season 3 being the middle of the show. This was the turning point of the series. First of all, I have to give a big shout out to Hank. The first half of the season was all for him. Seeing him go down this winding spiral of insanity all the way to being confronted by the twins. Dean Norris portrayed this journey perfectly, and we saw the deepest levels of the character. It was such a great arc. I also want to mention Skylar's arc this season. She finally got fed up with the ocean of Walt's lies, and she added it up all together and figured it out. This was such a cool reveal, and even more so, she became much more involved in the story rather than just be collateral damage on the side. She is a force to be reckoned with, and I was very curious to see how her involvement was going to escalate. 3 whole seasons, and everything changed with the cliffhangers of the last 2 episodes. Full measures were taken. These 3 seasons have given us the character development of Walt and Jesse, who have been shining examples of irony. Walter was introduced as a family-loving man with compassion and a balanced moral compass, but he's a villain. At any other angle, he could easily be written as the evil antagonist to anyone else's story. It's not even just about the hat. The blood on his hands is dripping, creating a deep pool around him. Jesse, on the other hand, sees himself as a bad guy and hates himself for every mistake he does. But he, not once through 3 seasons, has laid a hand on anybody. He never took a life for someone, ever, no matter how bad they were. Even when he felt responsible for someone's death, he was always innocent. Until the finale. Half Measure saw Walt not only killing 2 people, but he did it without hesitation or remorse. Whereas before he'd cry and apologize for days and dwell on his actions, he didn't even blink and was completely heartless. And then Full Measure ended on the season finale cliffhanger. A distraught Jesse, who has never killed anyone, looks an innocent man in the eye and puts a bullet in his head. His innocence is gone. And with that, the season ended. Walt's moral compass is shattered, and Jesse is now a killer. Out of all the episodes that I watched throughout the series, I do believe these final episodes of season 3, the show just changed. This was it. Whenever people say Breaking Bad is a good show, it starts here. That conversation between Skylar and Walt, where Skylar was like, I'm protecting the family from the man who's protecting my family, and Walt was like, I am the danger, I'm the one who knocks. You know, that really summed up season 4 perfectly. Any other comments or remarks I can possibly make about the season is also just overshadowed by Walt and Bryan Cranston. I can go on about Skylar, and I can go on about Jesse. I can write an essay about how Gus was the most compelling and haunting villain ever, but Walter White has become a villain in his own story, and I am still, to this day, honestly, mentally recovering from what happened throughout this season and the season finale of season 4. Waltz just became more unhinged in season 4 as he and his family was getting more and more danger due to Walt's actions in season 3. The tables have turned and Walt just loses control of the situation. Yes, Gus manipulated Jesse to get him on his side to isolate Walter, but sometimes watching the show, sometimes I forgot just how manipulative Walt can be with Jesse as well. I mean, how can you forget? I don't know how I always kept forgetting this, considering what he did to Jane. In the end, Walt had to become the man he most feared to take down his enemy, and I honestly had no idea how season 5 would go after that, or how they'd conclude the story. I mean, after season 4, like, how do you end such an epic tale like that? I don't know how, but they did it in season 5, the final season. Walter White is dead. Heisenberg is here. This season, honestly, so depressing. All the characters are just ravenous, especially Hank after he discovers Walt's secret. The family is positively broken as we've reached the point of no return. It's even more heartbreaking knowing Walt was ready to settle down and enjoy his success and retirement. But thanks to Jesse, that's not possible. Ironic how the one man that was able to bring him down is the same man that helped him get started in the business to begin with. So, I think everyone knows. Anyone who has watched the show will say, or probably agree with me when I say, episode 14 is what the entire series leads up to. The pilot established this hidden war of Walt versus Hank, and we spent the entire series wondering when Hank would catch him. Like, it wasn't a matter of if, but when. And he did in the worst way possible. Between Hank's death and the White family fallout, this was the true ending. And then episode 15 follows the immediate events of Ozymandias. I never know how to pronounce it. In the final scene, a new fire in Heisenberg wakes. He has work to do. An extended version of the main theme plays, and the episode ends. The show is literally yelling at us. Next episode is the series finale, just so you know. Oh my god. Okay, now listen. I've watched Game of Thrones. I still think that show is one of the greatest shows of all time. But I agree that it ended poorly, and that's the scariest thing about a really good show. It's very, very rare for a show to have a conclusive and satisfying ending that everyone is happy with. Game of Thrones failed like so many others. Breaking Bad did not. No further information denies the fact that the White family got the money. I also read up and discovered Jesse is also alive and well, I think heading to Alaska. Every time Walt said something along the lines of, I hope it wasn't for nothing, my heart broke, and I also feared that his mission may fail. He needed to leave money behind to support his family, and how much of his money was just lost or misused and wasted. He spent so much effort also to keep Jesse alive, a side quest of his that I don't think he expected to take on. How many times did Jesse do something to put himself in danger or nearly killed? So, the money and Jesse surviving, those were the two things that made this ending so satisfying to me. Because those were the two big things that I was concerned about. And, everything was as well as they could be. Walt died knowing that he not only succeeded in his mission, that it wasn't for nothing, but he made sure that there were no loose ends. And now, after all the grief he's caused, he can rest now, knowing that everything is settled and that everyone should be safe. The Heisenberg legacy dies with him. So, final thoughts. Now that I've been marinating in the experience all year, this show just got better and better with time. I still nominate the end of season 3 to be the turning point of the series. The quality of writing and acting was, as well as the intensity and emotion of the show, just amps up from there, as if it wasn't already intense and emotional before. I also like how when you get to the final season, events from the first 2 seasons are relevant and come full circle, even if you don't expect it to. So every element and character of the story holds some important significance, and it just made for a whole cohesive story. Hank's story was one I didn't know I'd get so attached to. The character went through so much, and you really felt for him as he began to lose himself in the Heisenberg case. Not only did Hank's story have its own merit, but having Hank as a character in Walt's story was genius. They set up this tension all the way from the pilot, when Hank opened Walt's eyes to the meth business. Then we proceeded to spend the series wondering if Hank would figure it out. Wondering if Hank would find out that his greatest enemy was his in-law that he went to barbecues with. They made it so that this conflict presented a duality support of sorts, as we all wanted Hank to succeed, while also wanting Walter White to prevail. But I knew it was impossible for Walt to keep it up forever. A downfall was inevitable. Despite my sadness for Walt, I was very satisfied to see it. The center of the story, of course, was the White family. Outside of Walt himself, there was a lot of focus on Skylar and Walt Jr. Skylar really grew on me as time went on. Given her awareness to Walt's work, we were able to see through her the worst repercussions of Walt's decisions. Anna Gunn portrayed the different levels of the character wonderfully. I think despite it all, she still loved Walt in the end, and I hope her character was able to find peace. I also adored watching RJ Mitty, I don't know how to say your name, RJ as Walter Jr. He was really good at the emotional scenes. He really was a phenomenal actor. Junior is such a lovable character, and I loved the relationship that he had with his dad, and I loved how they loved each other. With so many great characters to follow, Breaking Bad, at the end of the day, is about one thing: the rise and fall of Heisenberg. I have a deep obsession with well-written characters, as complex characters are what I look for the most in any story I experience, whether it's movies, shows, or games. The story of Walter White is as good as it gets, and wow. The journey, the development, the dimension, Walter White is almost incomparable to no other character. The cinematography of the show was consistently amazing, but any inner commentary I made on it would always be during a scene when they used shadow and lighting to make Walt look more menacing, or a camera angle to make Walt look intimidating. And Bryan Cranston, I'm almost crying. He is definitely one of the greatest actors of his generation. He owned every second he was on screen. Even if the focus wasn't even on him, he seemed so alive in every word of dialogue and just perfectly portrayed the dimensions and emotions of his character. The show and other actors were great, but I'd literally watch the whole series again just to watch him. His acting was as brilliant as the writing, and Walter White, I think, should be stapled as one of the most compelling and dynamic characters of all time. So yes, I'm sure millions of you out there would love to recommend Better Call Saul, but before you get to Better Call Saul, do not sleep on Breaking Bad. That show, it really was revolutionary. I recommend it. No question. So, Encanto has been out for 10 months now, and I really want to go back to my original blog post of the movie that I made, because I honestly feel like my emotions have changed since then. So let me see. Let's just get started. One of the main things that made me love this movie was the cultural representation. Yes, still agree. My second family is Colombian, so I was really excited to see their heritage come to life in a colorful, beautiful animated Disney movie with songs written by the Lin-Manuel Miranda. I knew I would walk out of that theater feeling happy, and I did. From the character designs, world design, soundtrack, the way they danced, and even just sitting through the credits, seeing all the Latino cast and crew names that worked on this movie, I was really impressed with how Disney treated representation overall. While this was a very wholesome Disney film, I don't think it even reaches top 50 Disney movies for me. Do I agree with that? Maybe. Not saying I disliked it. I literally cried 3 times. Yes, I did. I related to Mirabelle so much. I still do. I really don't think it'll be seen as a big hit like Frozen, Moana, or Coco. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Though it has great elements that everyone should enjoy. The concept of the town and Madrigal family was very interesting. The unique gifts of the family were fun to explore. The themes of the family rifts and struggling to live up to great expectations were themes I personally connected to the most. Through this story of magic, there was still a heavy story of family legacy and the struggles that come with that. Okay, I agree with most of that paragraph. I guess I didn't think that it would be such a hit that it became. Like, I enjoyed it, but I didn't know if everyone else would. And I don't think I did put it in my top 50, but if I did put it in my top 50, it's like number 49 or something. I'll have to look. I do have a list. I have an IMDb list that I sort and rank all the Disney movies, and I still don't know if Encanto is in the top 50, but if it is, it's close to 50 if it's not in the top 50 for me. I mean, I still agree with that statement because there's like 100 Disney, there's over 100 Disney films, and there are so many other Disney films that I would watch before Encanto. So the only thing that I disagree with is my prediction that it wouldn't be a big hit, because it definitely was a big hit. Okay, my quick intervention to state my theory about Mirabelle's gift. I believe her gift was the house. To me, it seemed that she just had a deeper connection and communicated with the house more than anyone. During her ceremony, the door disappeared as if she wasn't allowed to have her own magical room space disconnected from the house's essence. And in the end, when she placed the doorknob, It was Mirabelle who returned the magic to the house and made it come alive again. It was also her fallout with Abuela Alma that led to the crumble of the original house to begin with, which is what really made me believe in this theory. I don't know, let me know what you think. Okay, I still kind of think this. Over the last 10 months, I have explored other theories about Mirabelle and her gift. And if I ever theorized something different, it would still be very similar to what I originally thought. Alright, here we go. Both the soundtrack and the songs successfully captured the Colombian flair. At first, the songs weren't as memorable to me as Moana or Hamilton, but the more I listen, the more I can appreciate that this is in fact another Lin-Manuel Miranda masterpiece. The Bruno song is definitely fire, the definition of fire. I can't get it out of my head. 10 months later, it never left my head. I sing it every day. Who doesn't? Yeah, I remember when I listened to the soundtrack before I saw the movie because they uploaded it on YouTube or something, and I enjoyed all the songs. But I remember the Bruno song was the only one that I was like crazy about. And then when I saw that sequence in the film in theaters, I literally cried because of how amazing that scene was. But like when I originally listened to the soundtrack, the Family Madrigal song, Surface Pressure, like I was just like not feeling it. And now I really like both of those songs. So yeah, that's still definitely true. The more I listen, the more I can appreciate that all of these songs are masterpieces by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and that's still a fact. And it's still a fact that the Bruno song is just that's a that how do you go from there, Lynn? How are you gonna go from there? I highly recommend this family film. It's a colorful celebration of Colombian culture, and it's also a story of magic while also being a story about family. A modern Disney classic, to be sure. That I can agree with. And I think I had like a footnote because, yeah, I added a footnote post-edit because I realized how popular the Encanto film was getting, and I think I corrected myself even then. So I said, it's been a few months, and I want to emphasize that I said the soundtrack is another Miranda masterpiece. Yeah, I still find myself loving the songs more and more. Still true. My family, like many others, have been obsessing over We Don't Talk About Bruno, and I love that the rest of the world enjoys it too. Still agree. I also want to say that the film has grown in popularity in a way I did not expect, and I'm incredibly happy for all the people that worked on this movie. Oscars are coming up, and I hope Encanto wins something. And I think they did. Didn't they win Animated Movie of the Year? I'm pretty sure. Because, like, I remember thinking it was between Raya and Encanto for me because the animation of Raya was stunning, and I feel like a lot of people just slept on that movie despite about how beautiful that movie was. But because of Encanto and the animation as well as the themes and the culture and the music, I think that was a shoo-in to win over Raya. But I think I would put Raya above Encanto for me. Like, I would have been just as happy if Raya won the Oscar for animated film because I liked Raya better as a film, like objectively. And that's a controversial opinion for sure. But I am just a Raya underdog believer, okay? I'm sorry. Also, okay, this final part. Also, when I said I cried, I was definitely referring to the generational pressure that the next gen faces. I understand that very well, and seeing the internet analyze this theme in all the characters is very appreciated. Yeah, I think I was very focused on Mirabelle's perspective on that, but the internet kind of opened my eyes to how, like, Isabella was dealing with that generational pressure as well. That was something I didn't think about until people on the internet were talking about it. So, so yeah. So, yeah, that was just me going through my original Encanto blog post. Kind of ashamed of it because, like, looking back, like, I definitely love it. I loved it since the trailer. Since they showed the first theatrical trailer, I was in love with it. But when I first watched the movie, I don't know what it was, but I just did not think it was going to be as big as it became, and I'm very happy that it is. So, yeah, if you somehow have not seen Encanto yet, what are you doing? Go watch it. That's movie night recommendation. Please, just do it. If you don't know, I'm on the final season of Mr. Robot, so it only seems fitting that I give the Superstar Award this week to the man himself, Rami Malek. All my information comes from the internet. Please don't sue me. Rami Malek and his identical twin brother, Sammy or Sami, I don't know which one. They were born to Egyptian immigrant parents who settled in a California town just a stone's throw away from Hollywood. Of course, it was a bit weird for him, as it was for many children that were born from a different culture, especially if his peers and teachers had trouble just pronouncing his name. Like so many other actors, Rami found love of acting through his high school theater. Though his parents wanted him to become a lawyer, Rami felt that he had their support to pursue an acting career. He graduated high school and studied theater at the University of Evansville in Indiana. It might seem weird to go from the heart of LA to a small town, Indiana, to study acting, but that university actually has a rigorous drama program that Rami very much praises. If you look up the university, there's actually several alumni that you may recognize from the entertainment industry, including Ron Glass, who I personally know best as the preacher from Firefly. The beginning of his professional career was a rocky start, like it is for everyone. Before he started getting regular work, he was making falafel and shawarma in Hollywood, which, dang, how many don't know they were blessed to eat shawarma made by the Oscar winner to be Rami Malek? As he started getting significant guest star roles, the role that I wouldn't say was his breakout performance, but certainly got his foot in the door for more opportunities going forward. The role that put his name in the spotlight was his role as the Pharaoh from Night at the Museum, which was actually, the first one is a classic, no shame. And I'm not just saying that from nostalgic bias either. Rami would reprise the role in the not as good sequels as well. Rami also was part of the supporting cast of the Emmy Award-winning HBO hit miniseries about World War II, The Pacific. Fun fact, the cast also include Joseph Mazzello, who was the boy from Jurassic Park and would later co-star with Rami again in Bohemian Rhapsody as Queen bassist John Deacon. Tom Hanks, the producer of the show, liked Rami's performance and invited him to be part of the cast of Hanks' next movie, Larry Crown, which Hanks wrote and directed himself. So that's pretty cool. Following the success of The Pacific, Rami voiced pro-bending star Tano in a few episodes of The Legend of Korra. He played minor roles in Old Boy with Elizabeth Olsen and Josh Brolin. Yeah. And in The Sweet Blood of Jesus, both of which are Spike Lee productions. This all led to Rami's greatest role as Josh in the video game Until Dawn. Listen, I've seen Rami's best performances, but there is just something about Until Dawn, and there is just something about Rami's performance in that game that it has been living in my head rent free for 7 years. Josh just goes absolutely bonkers in that game, and Rami did the motion capture and voice acting for all of it. And I am still obsessed after all this time. This game made me a Rami fan to begin with. I am 100% biased when I say I believe his career officially started with Until Dawn. This was his real breakout performance. You just had to be there. The same year Until Dawn came out, the first season of Mr. Robot did as well. If you've been following my journey with this show, then you already know my thoughts about it. Playing Elliot Alderson saw Rami win an Emmy Award for his performance as well as multiple Golden Globe nominations. Rami officially became one of the best. Very well deserved. The show ran until its fourth and final season ended in 2019, which I'm in the middle of watching. Yeah, I definitely recommend the show to all of you. It's pretty good. Rami Malek saw his crowning achievement when he starred in the Freddie Mercury biopic Bohemian Rhapsody as the legendary Queen himself, Freddie Mercury. I can't tell you in words how important this film is, or Queen, or Freddie, or Brian, just everything to do with the movie and in the band. I can't explain in words what Queen means to me. And Rami feels the same, as he has said that he can't see any other role of his to ever live up to it. And he literally won everything for his Freddie Mercury role. Oscar, Golden Globe, Screen Actors SAG Award, BAFTA, clean sweeps all around. The film and Rami and the rest of the cast, I feel, was successfully able to capture that special energy that Queen has. Great movie, great performance, 10 out of 10. And to top it all off with his greatest achievement, Rami was the latest Bond villain in Daniel Craig's final James Bond performance, No Time to Die. Despite the quality of any Bond film, to play a Bond villain or a Bond girl or 007 himself is a high honor, especially in the eyes of British and film culture. But Rami is far from done. As of today, he still has a couple of big films lined up for release with amazing casts that include iconic names like Robert De Niro, Christian Bale, Anya Taylor-Joy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Gary Oldman, and so many others. So look out for Amsterdam and Oppenheimer for movies that will sweep you off your feet for the phenomenal casting, if nothing else. I am an official Rami Malek fan, and I will be following his career closely in years to come, and you should too. That's it for this week. Again, follow me on Twitter or leave a comment, and let me know what you've been fangirling over this week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you again next week.